Recently, I've got in a heated argument with one of tutors on LinkedIn. So there was a post, and the post described the recent SBR sit-in, saying that many people felt very confused with the exam. It was a disaster, and some people would start crying and so on. And I would say, yes, unfortunately, it is especially hard for people that take the exam as a self-study because books and free videos often don't teach the most important skill, which is working with the unknown. Because let's face it, if you open past papers, you will see questions that you could never have envisaged. So, for example, you could have studied the full syllabus, but open June 2025 past paper and you will see that there is a question about the importance of the uncertainties note for the users of the financial statements. And if you have not got this skill of working with the unknown and generating the answer from any exam, from any requirement, then it's going to be hard for you to answer, and of course you will get confused. Or, for example, a couple of years ago, there was a question about severe weather conditions and its impact on the reporting. Again, if you have not been taught this very skill to work with some new information, with new scenarios, then it's hard for you to pass. That's why, as a tutor, I think that it's our job is not only to teach people debits and credits and what gets tested and how, but also to teach to work with the unknown. So let me give you a few ideas. Idea number one, and this is the main thought that you should channel, is it's not as bad as you think. Let's engage in a very important mental exercise. Open past 5 papers. Just glance through them, look at the questions, and then rank them by how hard they seem. So, like 1 being relatively easy, of course, not very easy, but still. 2 be okay, and 3 being a disaster. Then open the pass rates and you won't see much difference. So the argument that got heated was about September 2025 session, and when we open the results, it's 48 marks. 48, which is the normal range between 48 and 50%. It's not like it was 20% mark, right? Pass rate. So what does it mean? Your chance of passing doesn't depend on how hard the exam looks. So even if your SBR paper tests these unpleasant topics like cryptocurrencies, which requires you to apply different standards, financial instruments, IFRS S2, so talking about environmental issues and that very accounting, and other hard topics, your chances of passing are absolutely the same as in the settings where property, plant, equipment, intangible assets, impairment were tested. They are the same, so you can do it, even if it looks like a disaster. Now, how do we do it? How do you get amongst those 48% that passed and not among those 52% that did not pass? First, learn to spot the triggers. Well, you are watching, listening my SBR Made Easy podcast, so you hear the triggers that I keep repeating, right? So, for example, is there any mention of the past year? Oh, yes. Then apply IAS 8 and discuss whether it's a change in accounting estimate or a change in accounting policy or an error. Is there any mention of the next year? Lovely. It's IAS 10 and we challenge whether the event is adjusting or not adjusting. Stop answering the question. Attempt it. In SBR, most people just get just frozen when they look at the exam and the question because we were taught in our work, in our job experience to be effective, to say yes, no, option 1, option 2. If I would write my boss an email the size of my SBR answer, well, they wouldn't be very happy, right? Because they wanted it to be easy. They wanted to answer the email as yes or no. And as such, it's in our blood to look at the question and try to think about the final answer, which is irrelevant. The final answer won't bring you any marks. Well, 1 mark tops. So let's take the Hammond's question, which was tested in March 2020. So the question was about the functional currency. There was a scenario, and maybe it's dinars, maybe it's dollars, maybe it's grommets. We don't care, because our job is to go sentences by sentences and say what this very sentence means. Like, the head office is located in a country which uses dinars as its main currency. What does it mean? Oh, probably dinar impacts some costs like utilities, like rent. So it can be, but not necessarily, a functional currency. So talk about it, and it is okay that your answer looks, oh, on one hand it is grommets, oh no, wait, it's dinars, oh no, maybe dollars, oh, who knows, right? Because you are given marks for challenging the scenario, not for the final answer. And your final answer may be even wrong, and you can still get the full mark. Now, don't be afraid to think. Thinking and writing your thoughts in the exam, it's like telling something from the stage, right? It can be intimidating. So let's take Juan, whoever pronounces, like however you pronounce the name of the question. That was tested in September-December 2022. And there we were told that there have been severe weather conditions and plant was to be decommissioned sooner. Okay, is there a standard on severe weather conditions? No. Okay, we have never experienced anything like it, but let's think. So what happens if some property plant equipment needs to be disposed of sooner? This means that we will receive less from it compared to what we planned. So this means that the value in use is going to be lower than originally planned, so it is an indicator of impairment. Whew, great. What else? So there is a plant, so it's quite massive, so probably there is some provision for dismantling, for site restoration, and the provision, this cash, will have to be paid sooner, so the discount in effect is going to be lower, so provision has to be increased. Aha, we have generated two separate ideas. And now all we need to do is to put them in writing. So explain it step by step. So when we explain, we just kind of like try to climb a ladder. So like one step, we say what it means. There have been severe weather conditions. What does it mean? So plant will be decommissioned sooner. That is what we get from the scenario. So what does it mean? So this means that the value, since the plant is going to serve for fewer years, then value in use will be lower than originally expected, and this is an impairment indicator under IAS 36, and so on. Also, it is not about how easy or hard the exam is, it's about your mark efficiency. I have told you the importance of being this mark earning machine so that you would teach yourself at the stage of the preparation how to earn marks with every 2-3 lines. And for example, in my revision course where we have lots of questions to practice, I teach you how to formulate your answer short, how to formulate your answer in the same way so that your brain will get used to using this very approach. And we are awarded marks for relevant points, not the volume. But if you are concise, you need to train yourself to recognize when whatever you are writing actually earns marks and when it doesn't. And this way, if you face a difficult question, you'll spend only as much time as needed to get the marks that you can get. And then you will move on and you will get as many marks as you can there and so on. And you probably have seen thousands of stories from prize winners that would say, oh, I have earned, let's say, 80% of 80 marks by just attempting 90% of the exam. Yes, this is how it works. You just need to be mark efficient. Don't aim for 100% of the marks. So look, we do need to pay attention to the marks because this is about the volume of our answer, the number of the ideas that are needed. But we also understand that each and every additional mark is much harder to get compared to the fast marks. So usually we try to aim at around 70% of the marks, not 100, and we need to use that because we need to manage our time in order to attempt all 4 questions. we need to practice unusual questions. So students often tend to focus on numerical questions, on debits and credits, but we need to challenge ourselves with questions that require thinking outside the box. One of my favorite examples is a SBR question that was tested in September 2018. And there we were supposed to explain why something that was not supposed to be recognized under IAS 38 intangible assets, internally generated brand, does not contradict the conceptual framework, so the absence of the recognition. And it confuses students because they are not used to applying a different standard or the conceptual framework instead of the specific standard, but such practice trains the skill of working with the unknown. Pay attention to how IFRS standards can be tested. Many people focus on debits and credits and fail to pay attention to the definitions and to when the standard is applied. So that is what we do in our SBR Made Easy. I tell you, okay, IAS 36 is not about this, this is also about this. Pay attention to, let's say, that possible returns for your sales is not a provision, is going to be a contract liability. Knowing how standards can be tested can make it easier for you to support marks. Use logical arguments. So, like in my course, when I teach people, I never just blah, 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 the definitions. Because if you just perceive a definition as something that would kind of like tell you what it is, like that the fair value is the price that will be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer liability in an orderly transaction between the market participants at the measurement day. Well, when we read it like that, we're like, okay, clear, I got it. But we need to understand the logical arguments, and there are 3 of them, and we need to understand when they hold true and when they don't. So, for example, the transaction must be an orderly one. So, it means that, for example, if we have some transaction and this is the price that was paid because this very company was going bankrupt and needed to sell its equipment or its buildings fast, this is not an orderly transaction, so the price of that very transaction can't be used as the reference for fair value estimation. It must be between market participants, so not between a company and its subsidiary. It must be at the measurement date, so not based on the data from a year ago. So understanding the definitions, the logical arguments, and that is what I do all the time, like especially with IFRS 15 when we have so many steps of each and every 5 steps of revenue recognition, opens the door to more marks. In fact, many hard questions are simply applications of definitions, as you've already seen, as in the case of SBR question that was tested in 2018, and you just need to spot those logical arguments. So, this is some of the techniques that I use with my students, and my observation is that if you spend time to practice each of those ideas that I have communicated to you, your exam results, not only for SBR but also for other papers as well, would improve significantly. So use these techniques because that is something that helps my students. And if you want to become my student, thank you, lovely. Would love to have you. You have all the links down below, and feel free to text me and ask me about the course or about individual classes. And have a lovely day. Bye-bye.